life. I'm today here with my friends LSD, and we're going to talk about animal rights today. Alice, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Vegaani. My name is Alice D. I'm an animal rights activist, an event organizer, a vegan author and educator, and the founder of We Care About Animals. My work focuses on helping people understand the moral, environmental, and health reasons to move toward a compassionate, plant-based diet and a vegan lifestyle. I organize community events, activism events, support. I also support and mobilize grassroots activists, and I collaborate with like minded groups around the world through organizing National Animal Rights Day in San Francisco, which will take place on June 7th this year. At the heart of everything I do is a simple belief: animals are individuals with personalities. They have their own lives and their own purpose, and they deserve to live free from harm. My goal is to build a world where that truth is reflected in our choices, our laws, and our culture.
Okay. Um. So, what did make you wake up to wake you up your commitment for animal rights?
Well, it took a lifetime in happening. I'd say my commitment began with a slow, uncomfortable realization that the way we treat animals in society doesn't match the values most of us claim to hold. Um, I always loved animals, and I was trained to treat them kindly. Hold on. Turn that down. But I didn't yet understand the systems behind the food on my plate or the products I loved. Let me just pick that up and hang it up there.
Something going wrong?
Um, yeah, there's a call coming in on the old land phone. I still have one of those things. Um, so I didn't yet understand the way the food was produced in the animal products I used, and I think the turning point came when I had a dream of looking for my beloved horse, where I've been looking for my beloved horse, and I really had come to appreciate her so much for her personality, her sense of humor, her love of life, and anyway, I was looking for her, couldn't find her, and eventually I walked up to this big black bubbling cauldron, and I looked inside, and there were the pieces of her body cut up and bobbing around in the soup, and and I was so horrified at that sight. And I think at that point, I knew in my heart that killing her to make her body into food was absolutely wrong. Taking her life for something like that when there were other foods available was just the wrong thing to do. So it took a while, took several years, but I later became vegetarian at the age of 17 once I learned that it was possible. I also wanted to, loved animals, and I wanted to thought the right thing to do was to become a veterinarian. So I took the prerequisite animal science courses, and I was shocked to see how animals were treated in factory farms and slaughterhouses. I don't know if everybody knows, but animal science, it sounds like a nice word, but honestly, what it really means underneath it is how to factory farm animals to create food for humans. So it really is a very nice name for a very horrible, horrible thing. So I was able to go into all these factory farms as a student, and I was able to go into slaughterhouses and see exactly what happened. And the ethical side of me rejected everything that was happening in those places. I remember thinking that if this were happening to dogs or cats or horses, the world would be outraged. And those early experiences shattered all illusions I might have held that animal suffering is somehow acceptable when it's hidden. From there and from my actual in person experiences, I really couldn't go back to living as if I didn't know what was going on in the factory farms. I swore to myself that when the time was right, that I would do my best to end this cruelty and the social normalization of it. And this vow pushed me into animal rights activism because awareness without action felt like complicity.
Yeah. Um. that's also a lot of some of those reasons I also was going vegan. I did go vegan. I think something like I think I did stopped eating animals in 2004.
Oh,
Um,
2004.
yeah,
Okay.
that's when I stopped. I was around 10 or so.
So you went through a vegetarian phase too?
I
When
st-
did you?
I actually stopped. Yeah, I basically did go vegan quite fast after that. And
Oh, good.
so I first actually learned about what happened with the cows or so, because around the area where I live, they were basically having the cow. I was coming across one of those cattle prisons, as I like to call them, now little boxes that they put the
Oh,
cows in, the baby
they
calves.
call them they call them veal crates.
Okay, they call them in. Okay, they call them veal crates in the United in English. Okay. Mm, but
And a lot of people don't realize that the male calves that are produced by the dairy industry that basically exploits mothers, the male calves are stuck into little boxes where they can barely turn around for their entire lives until they're slaughtered young. I guess the reasoning for doing this horrible thing to them is that it keeps their flesh from turning red. So their flesh is very devoid of blood, and it's a paler type of flesh. I mean, it's the cruelest thing you can possibly imagine to keep a creature that's built to roaming the fields to be stuck in a little tiny crate for their entire lives. It's terrible.
yeah, yeah, I did come across one of those things while I was cycling outside in the farming areas around my hometown, and
I'm surprised they put them on display.
but
Usually the veal crates are hidden
yeah,
where people can't see them.
so I did go cycle really far into the rural areas, so I was seeing them from a distance.
Oh, okay. Usually you have to get drones and fly them over these animal farms in order to see the veal
Yeah,
crates. They
a lot
Most
of
farmers realize
yeah,
that people
uh,
don't like to see that sort of thing, and it
yeah,
looks cruel because
yeah,
it is cruel,
yeah,
and so they hide it from the public.
yeah. So you need also to go to the farming areas, and I live in a farming town. That's where I was born.
Oh, okay.
So there were a lot of people that just were indifferent. I even interviewed once time a chicken farmer, and he was just telling about what happened to the chickens, where his grandson was standing next to him.
So I guess his grandson didn't care. How old was his grandson?
Uh, 10. I'm not sure if he really listened or so. He seemed to be distracted by stuff. But he told me also that the chickens were getting slaughtered after 1 year in the chicken coops, because they
Yes.
didn't produce enough of food for the chickens anymore. And he was saying that
Right.
he was saying that
Because they don't produce enough eggs.
yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
generally because they don't produce enough eggs.
yeah.
But was he raising chickens for
It was
meat, or was he raising chickens for eggs?
He was he,
Because
wa-
there's
he
a
was a he
difference.
was a chicken farmer. He was a an egg farmer.
Egg farmer.
He
Okay.
was having one of those really big chicken coops with around something like um how much was it? Around, I think he was saying something that there was in one cube 20,000 chickens.
Were they in cages? Was it a
Yeah,
battery farm, or
yeah.
was it a free range farm?
It was one of those free range farms, so where they walked over the
A
ground,
free
and
range farm.
he only cleaned the spaces once a year when the chickens did go to the chicken slaughterhouse for stove chicken, chicken
Right,
broth.
right. Chicken broth. Yeah, the flesh of uh, egg farmed chickens are is particularly tough because they're not young like the broiler chickens that are raised in the chicken meat farms. So they are not considered the sort of chicken. They're considered spent hens. I think that's what they usually call them, spent hens. And they are usually used for chicken broth or for chicken soup or things like that, where the meat
Yeah.
can be chopped up into little pieces or extracted from.
Hmm?
It's not the sort of chicken that you'll see on, the flesh of on the counter at your in your meat department. So again, these are, uh, it's just a side product of the egg industry. And the egg industry is so incredibly cruel. It really, they cut off the beaks of the chickens and they kill all the males, often by grinding them alive just after birth. And they're just adorable. I mean, these adorable little yellow fluffy chickens, and they're just all chopped up in a grinder, alive. It's one of the most tragic things. When I do street side activism and show pictures of this happening to them, people are just shocked. They can't believe that this cruelty occurs, and it's something that is starting to be legislated against. I think Switzerland has done some very forward-thinking animal welfare actions, and this is one of the things that is considered to be so odious and horrible about the egg industry, the killing of baby male chickens.
Hmm.
But the whole
Um,
industry is horrible, and the whole industry should end. It's totally unnecessary. Eggs are unhealthy food, should not be consumed in any significant amount by humans. We're meant to eat plants, and if we're eating eggs, we're deviating from our healthiest and most natural diet.
I I agree completely, of course. um, so how did you think thinking evolved from compassion for to all animal or full animal rights advocacy?
Oh, well, I guess from compassion to animal rights advocacy, uh, I think it starts with the heart. Compassion is a beautiful starting point, but it's definitely not enough on its own. We can't just care for animals and then not do anything about it. That's like, a bit like people walking by uh, the person that is harmed, and the Good Samaritan stopping to help. We need to stop to help. We need to put our compassion into action. And what changed for me was understanding that animals don't just need kindness, they need legal rights to protect them just as humans have. We cannot just trust humans to treat animals decently. Because they will exploit them and they will kill them if they are hardened, if their hearts are hardened. So they need legal rights. Rights protect beings from harm regardless of convenience or profit. When I read the book Animal Liberation, it gave me the philosophical framework for what I already felt, which is that speciesism is a form of discrimination akin to racism and sexism, and that no living being should be discriminated against based on what they cannot change about themselves. It helped me see that the issue behind animal agriculture isn't isolated cruelty, it's the belief and the erroneous belief that animals exist for human use. They don't. They they exist for their own purpose. Once I understood that, my activism shifted from trying to reduce suffering and improve animal welfare to working towards total animal liberation and their protection with rights.
Mhm. Um, Let me think about uh, mm, um, what role did the book Animal Liberation and Diet for a New American Place play in shaping your worldview?
Oh, well, those are really important foundational books. And I'd like to add another book, which is The World Peace Diet by Dr. Will Tuttle. And I would say Animal Liberation challenged me intellectually. It was a very thought-provoking book, while Diet for New America connected the dots between diet, health, environment, and ethics. The World Peace Diet, which is by Dr. Tuttle is also a Buddhist practitioner, is kind of brings it all together into a world peace context and also a spiritual context. So I think that that combination of three books, one kind of the philosophical intellectual viewpoint, another the practical implications, and the third the spiritual implications, brought it all together for me. And it showed that the consequences of animal agriculture ripple through every part of our world, including our bodies, our ecosystems, our spirituality, and our moral integrity. These three books helped me see that veganism isn't just a personal choice, it's a social justice issue with global implications. Also, I learned that veganism as a boycott of animal use was not sufficient, since animals actually need rescue and help obtaining their rights. I also wrote my own book, Why We Care About Animals, that is available at Amazon, to help bring science to bear on how we can best understand and relate to other creatures based on facts regarding their physiology, intelligence, and emotional lives, and how that naturally leads us to a vegan lifestyle if we actually care about these things. So, why we care about animals is. A kind of my distillation of the various information and my own personal experience and scientific research into the subject.
Okay. Um, what was the moment you realized you could no longer participate in the consumption of animals?
Oh, well, let me think back. Well, I became vegetarian the same day that I found out that I didn't have to eat animals to be healthy. The very same day. I think it was like an hour or so after I obtained this information. Um, I was 17, and a close friend of mine had just returned from a trip to California, and she said she had met many vegetarians. I asked her, "What's a vegetarian?" And she told me they did not eat any flesh foods. Well, then asked if they were healthy, and she confirmed that they seemed very healthy. I stopped eating meat for life that very day over 40 years ago, and I never went back to doing so. Then, when I learned several decades later that I no longer had to eat dairy products or eggs to remain healthy, I stopped eating those products the same day too. I knew full well from my animal science training that the food systems that produced those items were horribly cruel to the creatures trapped in them. I basically realized I couldn't consider myself someone who cares about animals on ethical grounds while funding systems that harm them. That moment of cognitive dissonance became a moment of transformation on my personal journey.
Um, how do you explain the idea of animal personhood to people who are unfamiliar with the concept?
Well, I start by explaining that personhood isn't about being human. It's about being a someone rather than a something, a dog rather than a rock. Animals have memories, preferences, social bonds, and the capacity to suffer, as I point out in my book. They obviously have personalities that are unique to them, so they should be properly seen as persons. Personalities means persons. Recognizing their personhood means acknowledging that they have inherent value, not value assigned by humans. It's a shift from ownership to relationship, from dominance to coexistence. And I think it's an important one for all of us to make.
Mhm. Yeah, that's also what I'm trying to talk also with people about a lot because I think also since well, the moment I learned that basically the concept of personhood includes, I realized that animals need to have a concept of personhood to have any forms of rights under law because even and I also find it strange that even that we give corporations personhood earlier than we give other animals personhood.
That's just ironic and ridiculous. Yes, of
Yeah,
course. If you have a personality, you're a person. That's how I look at it.
yeah. I find it
And
really.
anybody who's ever lived with animals, lived with a dog or a cat or some other or a horse or some other animal, if you've lived with an animal, you recognize that one animal is, fundamentally, distinctly different in their emotions and their personalities from another. They're very different beings. They have personalities. So that personality is what creates the personhood, in my view.
I agree as with that. Um, what is the mission of We Care About Animals? Is WCAHA. Uh, and
Oh,
how? Yeah,
that's the initials.
yeah,
WCAA. Yeah,
yeah.
WCAA.
And how does it gauge your work?
Well, We Care About Animals, or WCAA's mission is to activate a grassroots movement for obtaining essential rights for non-human animals and promoting a global transition to a vegan lifestyle for humans. We're entirely volunteer driven, which keeps us authentic and independent. We do not accept donations, just freely given time and effort. That structure keeps our focus pure since everything we do is for the animals, not for organizational survival or branding. It allows us to collaborate widely and stay nimble and focused as an organization. So we're basically in this to without any profit motive, without any pay, to obtain essential rights for non-human animals and promote veganism.
Mhm. When did you start it?
What's that?
When did you
When
start
did
it with this project?
I have records dating back to 2017 as I guess, the time when I set up the intellectual viewpoint for the website.
Okay.
So I started creating the text for it then.
Um.
And I think my book was published in in 2024. So my book was published a couple of years ago. That kind of encapsulates, why I founded this organization and the science behind animal sentience.
Okay. Um. How does National Animal Rights Day um nard
Nard,
yeah
yes.
complement with complements with We Care About Animals mission.
The National Animal Rights Day, or NARD, complements our mission because it creates a global moment of remembrance and commitment to animal rights. It's a day when people around the world gather in major cities to honor and mourn the billions of animals killed each year in animal agriculture and slaughterhouse facilities. People speak out, people march, and people group create a group mourning ceremony for the victims of animal agriculture. We Care About Animals works year round to activate individuals, while NARD provides a powerful annual focal point for the animal rights movement. And together, and through my guidance and participation, they create both momentum and continuity that mean caring emotion gets paired with meaningful action.
Okay. Um, what does um what does nerd brings with the memory for animals?
Um, are you asking about the format of the NARD
Yeah,
event, or?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, the San Francisco NARD event I organize starts with a rally that includes powerful speakers from the region. We've had speakers like Dr. Tuttle has spoken, the author of the World Peace Diet, and Leah from In Defense of Animals has also spoken out, and Almira Tanner from uh, Direct Action Everywhere, and various other well-known activists in the region. And the activists then, after hearing from the speakers, they all marched around around the area as a group to show our firm commitment to the cause, chanting, with chants and signs and banners and so on. And finally, the event's memorial concludes the NARD event, and it centers on the victims of animal agriculture as we acknowledge the lives lost. So we have large images of animals trapped in factory farms that we mourn together as a group. And it's a powerful moment of honesty and grief that grounds, I think, the animal rights movement in compassion for the victims of animal agriculture. Collective mourning creates a space for transformation and future activism. So, it's a way that we can move forward, understanding seeing who the victims are, and understanding our sadness for their plight. And it reminds us that our activism isn't abstract, but it's instead about real individuals who never got to live the lives they wanted and deserved.
Um, what are the most urgent animal abuse happening in the animal agriculture industry?
Well, the scale of suffering in factory farming is staggering. Billions of animals live in confinement so extreme it would be illegal if it were done to dogs or cats. Egg-laying chickens have their beaks burned off, while the useless male chicks are ground up alive, as I mentioned earlier. Cows are forcibly impregnated, i.e., raped, and tragic, and by the farmer, I might add, not by a bull, and tragically separated from their cows near birth. So you go through this, this. I guess non-consensual impregnation. You carry the baby for full term, and then it pops out, and then the farmer steals it. They then take the males and they tightly confine them in veal crates until slaughter, and then these adorable little baby calves are murdered in slaughterhouses. Their mothers are also killed at the age of about 5 years old, which is like one quarter of their total life